out there doing essentially what I believe Connect does? And how do you see making an entrance into that market and working with small, open source, small physician office systems?
You want to start, Ben?
Since you're building a business around it.
So I mean, first of all, Medicity is domestic, and we believe at Oracle that the opportunity for Connect is international. That there's all the work and design and really sophisticated architecture that's part of that product deserves to be rolled out internationally to countries that don't have the resources that we have in the U.S., et cetera, to kind of custom design what we want to do. It's highly standards based, so I think we're starting to see interest internationally as well. Now the other issue is, I mean, for us, the Connect product or the Gateway product is kind of like the jug of milk at the gas station. It's very inexpensive. It's intended to promote the Connect-based ecosystem as much as we can, and so that's really the way we're using that as a company. It allows us to say to you know, there's a less expensive way to do Medicity. It's called Connect.
So with respect to the origin of Connect, it was part of the NHIN trial implementations, and if you remember, there were actually 15 awardees. There were 9 original awards made and then smaller grants made to 6 additional. So there were 15 private sector HIEs that were involved in the project, defining the standards for services, the standards for content that we were going to exchange, even the data use and reciprocal support agreement, coming up with a single coherent. And by the way, that's probably one of the most significant things that came out of the project. Was you know, the millions of dollars we spent on lawyers to get basically a treaty-like document that people could sign up to. So you have one single data use and reciprocal support agreement that had the warrants of behavior and the remedies if you're a bad citizen that everybody signed off on, both private sector and federal agencies could sign up to. And when we have 10 signatories, half of which are government agencies and half of which are private sector organizations, including Kaiser Permanente and those large and small organizations. So that to me is really one of the historic things that was accomplished. But the goal that John Lunsk set when we started the trial implementations was that all of those awardees would have to help define those specs that we were implementing. They would have to implement those. We would have to test them for on-the-wire interoperability, and then we would have to demonstrate it. And part of the hope is that out of that there would be a set of products that would emerge in the marketplace as a result of what we've done. And so the reality was that the federal agencies, instead of doing their normal thing, which would have been to go off and each one of them do their own implementation, we got them to work together in a single investment approach, single governance approach for what they were doing, and then do non-shared deployment operations and maintenance and give it away to anybody that they thought they might partner to. As far as I'm aware, there are only 2 potential viable products that have actually emerged out of the other 15 organizations that were paid to do implementations. Axolotl had done an implementation that they built on their platform, and then the Medicity was involved as one of the technology partners for one of the HIEs as well. So out of that, we've got 3 products that have emerged in the marketplace. Connect is an open source project. All of the vendors who were not using Axolotl or Medicity have since adopted Connect in their implementations of HIE. And we have roughly about 2,000 organizations across the U.S. that are involved either in the process of adopting or involved with training and providing services around that. So the ecosystem has really taken off significantly around that. So there is a marketplace for it. Now, with respect to EMR vendors, in our community, we have a number of efforts that have been ongoing. So, like for example, there was a funded project, pork barrel politics, earmarks, and Mirtha and company in Pennsylvania are extremely good at that. And so, in Conemaugh, there was a project which required being able to create a connector at the adapter level to Allscripts. So that's been being donated back. It'll be in the RAN 4.0 release of Connect coming up in May. And then we partnered with Mirth very early on, and so all of the channel adapters that Mirth has got for EMR products, basically the way they plug into the adapter architecture, it brings a whole, all those different categories of EHR vendors that they've already connected to, they have a means of connecting into that. So I don't know whether you guys have a Mirth channel adapter or not for your EMR product, but if you do, we can very quickly plug them in. If we don't, we have an architecture and an SDK that would probably very readily facilitate that, and it's just a matter of putting some programmers on.
We use them.
We're actually using Mirth on the back end in some of our services that we use. We like the idea of it being very standards driven. It makes it easy target for us to be able to output data in the correct format. And we have a very large international base. So in terms of trying to take this to an international project, it would be very easy to use Medicity or Connect as a central HIE structure and use OpenEMR to be collecting data from individual small practices. We're fully translated into 7 different languages right now. We have a lot of, 15 to 20 installations in India, 9 installations in Kathmandu, Nepal, 3 or 4 in Indonesia. IPPF is rolling out in Central Africa at this time. We've got installations in Armenia, Barbados. So OpenEMR is going to be a worldwide project. And from that perspective, it is just an excellent program for small medical practices. It's easy to learn, easy to use. And when you get into third world countries where you're lucky if a doctor has a computer, and even luckier if he knows how to use it. Okay, so trying to do electronic medical records in a third world country is very difficult. It tends to be better adopted in India because the IT experience in India is much better than most places in the world. It's just easier in India because they have so much development experience there. I'm still a little bit surprised that Kathmandu, Nepal is number 2. And depending on which operating system you look at, in Linux, number 3 is probably Nepal. If you use Windows operating systems, Ethiopia ends up being number 3. Who would have thought Ethiopia would be number 3? Okay, but that's you just have to we have to keep adding features and make the progress. But actually connecting to the HI is something that we're planning on. We're working on that actively, and I don't think it'll be very hard to do something like an API to connect.
And there's another question from the audience.
Hi, I'm Mark King. I teach at Aiken Technical College down the road. And just very briefly, for our computer science students, what skills or technologies do you think we should emphasize to help the students get ready for a field in health information technology? Again, we're very interested in open source because every single year our budgets get cut more than last year.
In terms of projects like Connect, we're always looking for people who have skills as Agile and Scrum methodologies from a development methodology or know how to plug into that. Specific skills in terms of programming, all of these services have been defined as WSDLs. We use SAML and XACML. So SAML's been used as a part of our authentication framework, and XACML's used to express computable rules about authorization and permissions. So consumer preferences, as a part of the NHIN, we defined a language for using XACML to express consumer preferences. And so skills in those areas are important. As I look to things that we're going to be doing, that if you want to push students in that direction, I think somebody was talking about semantic SOA yesterday. We've got, and this is basically due to funding through TATRIC, which is one of DoD's research organizations. We've got an adapter layer right now that's able to plug in existing EMR applications and pull data out and express that in the full HL7 version 3.0 REM models as a set of objects that are then available to populate, for example, all of the HITSP construct documents. So any CDA-based document that was defined as a standard under HITSP, basically we have a document manager and a template mechanism where if the template's there, the document manager can grab it. If you've got your system plugged into the CAL layer, it can bring all of this structured coded clinical data up and populate these as structured coded computable documents. And so with the May 3rd release, we'll not only do all of the C32 stuff, but we'll be doing the C63, and there's some other construct documents. And we intend to evolve that so that we can meet all of the requirements of PCAST, which is currently being debated by the Health IT Standards Committee. But that's the next step, is moving to computable data that we can exchange. Right now, the base standard is just simply, can you throw a document across in some form or another, and we'll figure it out if we have to have a human in the loop. But the goal, the real value is having obviously structured and coded and computable data so that we can operate on that. So, and that's the piece that Dan and I were discussing this last night. There's a lot of lack there right now in terms of, it's hard to find skills, people with those kinds of skills in terms of the semantic stuff.
Are you a community college? So looking at that curriculum, and been looking at community college curriculums in IT. Basically, when look at the resume, it's Linux, Java. It turns out that SQL is now becoming more of an engineering specialty, and fewer engineers are working at that level, and more are working at web services. So that's where we actually need the bulk of the knowledgeable people. Now, a lot of your folks are going to be either going into data center environments and helping support those data centers, whether they're in the hospital or Clemson type data centers or wherever, because of cloud computing and the importance of that. And the essence of cloud computing, of course, is web services. So that's where that all connects. The other group will, be the feet on the ground helping small business, and at that level, being able to connect into cloud computing from those small businesses is really the future of small business software. So I think, without at least, obviously they're also more marketable when they can go through some kind of how do you say, commercial certification. Whether that's, and most of these companies that sell popular software have some kind of commercial certification process, and that looks good on their resumes as well.
Well, here's a question.
And I don't know if you guys are the proper people to ask this, or maybe just comment on.
Maybe we'll give you an appropriate answer.
That'd be awesome. But like, just